The film opens with a boy sitting on a small boat going to a very special place. The boy ties rocks to his feet and jumps into the sea. Soon he falls. The Flying Dutchman is sinking deep under the ocean, but soon after the ship surfaces. That boy is none other than Winter's son, Henry Turner. At this point, Wind steps out of the boat, and Henry tells his father that he has read in books about a way to break the curse on him. That is to find the trident of the sea god Poseidon with Jack Sparrow. However, Wind believes that it is all just a legend, completely untrue, and that he will never be saved. He then takes off the necklace from his neck and gives it to Henry, while cutting the rope tied to the boy's feet and resolutely driving the Flying Dutchman away into the deep water. Henry climbs onto the small boat and vows to himself that he will definitely find Jack. 9 years pass. Henry has grown up, studied all the legends of the sea, and joined the British Royal Navy. On a mission to pursue pirates, the ship Henry served on, being chased and pursued by a pirate ship, sailed straight into the legendary Devil's Triangle. Henry warned the captain not to continue the pursuit, otherwise everyone would perish there. But the captain paid no heed to his words. Having no other choice, Henry had to disobey the captain and tried to turn the ship around. As a result, he was arrested by the captain and accused of treason. Then his shoulder strap was torn and he was thrown into prison. At this moment, the wanted poster for Jack that Henry had kept fell to the ground. After the ship entered the Devil's Triangle, not long after, a group of people capable of moving on water appeared and attacked. Faced with that terrible attack, the Navy was quickly wiped out. These mysterious people called themselves the Dead, all cursed, never able to be killed, and even possessing powers beyond all natural laws. That is thanks to their hairstyles that they are not affected by the Earth's gravity. The leader of this army is none other than Captain Armando Salazar. When Salazar saw the wanted poster next to Henry, he did not kill him. Salazar asked Henry to tell Jack that he would soon come to take revenge on Jack. In a prison, a young astronomer named Karina, accused of being a witch, was held captive. While escaping from prison, Karina accidentally stumbled into the opening ceremony of the bank, which was considered the safest, and quickly escaped in the crowd. The bank director boasted that the 12-meter-long safe was absolutely safe. When the safe was opened by the staff, everyone was surprised that inside there was not only gold and silver, but also the bank owner's wife sleeping soundly. After sobering up, Jack remembered that he had brought his crew to rob the bank. Hearing the sound of army gunfire, Reese led his men to try to steal the safe. But surprisingly, the bank building, a poorly constructed building, collapsed during the process of pulling the safe out, bringing the entire bank building with it. Money inside the safe fell all over the ground during the move. By the time they dragged the safe to the beach, there was only one gold coin left inside, which disheartened the crew. They saw that Jack currently had no money and no ship, and following him had no future, so they all left. Now only Jack was left alone on the boat, sadly looking at the black pearl sealed in the clam. Henry woke up in the hospital, his hand still cuffed. The soldiers said that he was hugging a log that drifted ashore. While unconscious, he kept muttering about pirates and the Trident. Because Henry's sleeve was torn, the soldiers decided to wait for him to recover and then kill him for treason. After the soldiers left, Karina came to him, introducing herself as an astronomer. She talked to Henry about Poseidon's map. At the same time, Karina showed him Galileo's diary that her father had left behind. Karina said that only when a blood moon phenomenon appeared could the map's instructions be accurately read to find the Trident. At this moment, the army suddenly appeared and arrested Karina. She quickly pulled out an iron bar and gave it to Henry, then quickly left. But she hadn't run far when she was caught by the soldiers. At the same time, Henry also used the iron bar to open his handcuffs and escape. He accidentally saw soldiers running out of the hospital, so he climbed over the wall to escape, but unexpectedly fell straight into a pigsty covered in mud. Meanwhile, Jack, after being abandoned by his crew, was so desperate that he went to a pub and exchanged his legendary compass for a bottle of rum. It was at the moment Jack gave up his compass that the seal on the obstacles of the demons in the Devil's Triangle was broken and disappeared. This freed Salazar and his ghost ship, allowing them to once again roam freely on the sea. Salazar felt the sunlight, and his hairstyle became even more ethereal. He finally went to find Jack to take revenge. After a few sips of rum, Jack left the pub and was arrested by the bank director and his men. Henry hid on the side and saw everything. That night, Henry stole a soldier's uniform and sneaked into the prison to find Jack. After seeing Jack, he was extremely disappointed with Jack's appearance, which was different from the legends he had researched. Henry told Jack that he was Winter's son and added that Salazar was on his way to take revenge on him. Jack now only had one way to survive, which was to find the Trident with him. Jack looked scared after hearing this. Karina, in another place, using the blood moon and the ruby embedded in the diary, also knew that to get the Trident, they had to find the island guided by the stars. On the sea, Salazar continuously attacked pirate ships. Each time he attacked, he kept one survivor as a witness. Hector Barbossa's fleet was also attacked. When he heard his subordinates report and mention Salazar's name, Barbossa was terrified. That night, he went to a prison, bribed the guards to meet a witch named Shansa who was locked up to find an answer. The witch told Barbossa that Salazar was currently unrivaled at sea and that he had only two choices. One was to retire, and the other was to ally with Salazar to prevent Jack from finding the Trident. The witch then gave Barbossa Jack's compass, signaling an impending fateful battle. The next day, the soldiers prepared to execute Jack and Karina. This execution ground was like a market where one could choose their own way of death. Jack chose the latest technique at the time, beheading, while Karina was to be hanged. Karina wanted to leave a last will. Jack began to interrupt her words. Neither of them gave way to the other. At this moment, Henry lowered a rope from above, attracting everyone's attention. Jack's sailors took this opportunity to fire cannons, destroying the gallows. In fact, these sailors were not driven by conscience to rescue Captain Jack, but because Henry had paid them, they agreed to rescue him. After a fierce battle, the group successfully escaped from the execution ground. At the same time, they boarded the ship named the Dying Gull. They began their journey to find Poseidon's Trident, a very rare treasure. On the ship, Jack threatened Karina to hand over the map, otherwise he would throw Henry into the sea. Initially, Karina refused to speak, until Jack threw Henry into the sea, then Karina finally told the truth. There was no such thing as a map, but a combination of astronomy and her diary could lead them to the hidden location of the Trident. Jack was a crew member on the ship carrying Henry and Karina. At night, Jack encouraged Henry to flirt with Karina. Since childhood, in order to break the curse on his father, Henry had studied all the legends of the sea. Karina wanted to understand her parents' identities, so she studied astronomy. The two had many things in common and were a perfect match. The British Navy found Shansa, wanting her to decipher the formula Karina had written on the wall. They also wanted to steal the Trident and then dominate the sea. Barbossa and his ghost army met at sea. Barbossa guaranteed that before dawn, he could make Salazar meet Jack, but on the condition that Barbossa's fleet would be spared. The two then reached an agreement, and in the blink of an eye, it was dawn. Salazar and Barbossa began to talk. Salazar was formerly the captain of the Spanish Royal Navy. Because pirates had killed his parents, he swore that he would kill all pirates in the world. The warships he commanded often fought 5-1 and had long achieved legendary feats at sea. As long as the enemy was a pirate, he would never spare anyone. Even if the enemy raised a white flag, he would pursue and kill them. At that time, the captain of the Black Pearl was mortally wounded by his cannon fire. Before dying, the captain gave the compass to Jack. Jack, when he was very young, opened the compass and it pointed to the Devil's Triangle. Jack stood on the ship and laughed at Salazar, making him furious. He said no more and chased Jack's ship towards the Devil's Triangle. But what he didn't expect was that Jack used the rope at the bow to cut off his tail and quickly turned around to escape. Salazar and his crew could only be buried there forever in hatred and helplessness. After winning the battle, the crew members of the Black Pearl successively offered their items to show their respect to the new captain. Salazar's entire army was completely wiped out in the Devil's Triangle. Their suffering and resentment cursed them to become a ghost army and be trapped there. After Salazar finished his story, it was dawn, and Jack's dying gull finally appeared before Salazar, as Barbossa had predicted. The sailors learned that Salazar was looking for Jack, so for their lives, they put Jack, Henry, and Karina on a small boat to fend for themselves. At this moment, Salazar released sharks, and at the same time brought his subordinates to attack Jack. In a dangerous moment, Jack used a hook to hook the shark's mouth. The shark struggled very hard, but thanks to that strength, Jack escaped Salazar's pursuit. They drifted onto an island not far ahead, but Salazar was cursed and could not go ashore. Once he stepped ashore, he would turn to dust. Jack's group quickly hid in the deep forest, but had not gone a few steps when they stepped on a trap and were caught by the islanders. Salazar returned to the ship furious. He used Barbossa's subordinates to vent his anger. Then Barbossa suggested that he could go ashore to catch people. Salazar agreed. Jack was currently being forced by his former creditor, Mr. Kelly, to marry his widowed sister, Beth. Fortunately, Barbossa brought his subordinates and chased after them, shooting and killing the creditor, and Jack was saved. In fact, Barbossa had lied earlier. He did not want to help Salazar catch Jack, but instead wanted Jack to help him find the Trident to rule the world at sea. Barbossa pulled out his magic sword and stabbed it through the bottle in Jack's chest, breaking the Black Pearl's seal. Not long after, the Black Pearl, the fastest ship at sea, reappeared through the waves. Barbossa boarded the ship and ordered Karina to lead the way because only she, with her astronomical knowledge, could use the stars to find the hidden location of the Trident. Barbossa saw Karina's Galileo's diary and talked to her. After a while, Barbossa realized that Karina was his long-lost daughter. To avoid tarnishing Karina's heroic image of her father, the pirate Barbossa did not acknowledge his daughter Karina. He sadly walked to the side, took out the compass, and the compass's needle pointed towards Karina. At this moment, the British Navy suddenly appeared. The troops on the ship loaded cannons and prepared to attack the Black Pearl. But unexpectedly, the ghost ship Silent Mary appeared in the middle of the path. With just 3 attacks, it took all the lives of the Navy. The Silent Mary chased after them. Then Salazar led his crew to jump onto the Black Pearl. The two sides began a fierce battle. During the battle, Karina steered the ship to the island according to the map's instructions that no one could read. The Ghost Army saw that the ship was about to reach shore and became extremely panicked, rushing back to their ship. Before returning, Salazar also took Henry. The bright sunlight shone on the island. The gemstones on the ground sparkled like stars in the sky, unimaginably beautiful. Among those gemstones, Karina discovered a very special, very eye-catching ruby. Karina took Jack and Barbossa down to the boat, placing the ruby, which was embedded in Galileo's diary, back in its original place. Sunlight shone through the rubies, projecting a map. The sea parted in two. Karina and Jack followed the path to the seabed. Jack casually picked up Karina's diary and put it in his chest. Salazar returned to his ship and decided to possess Henry. That way, he could use Henry's body to walk on land to retrieve the Trident. Jack and Karina walked a few steps forward, stopping for a moment to observe everything. Just as the legend said, Poseidon's tomb was still there, and the Trident was not far ahead. At this moment, Salazar, in Henry's body, rushed forward with his sword, engaging in a fierce duel with Jack. Karina took the opportunity to kick the Trident to the ground. Salazar quickly ran over, trying to snatch the Trident. Salazar's true form, after obtaining the Trident, escaped from Henry's body, for he only wanted to use the Trident to break the curse, so that he could move freely on land. However, after obtaining the Trident, he controlled the seawater to tightly wrap around Jack. After a while, Jack fell to the ground. Salazar stabbed the Trident into Jack's heart, but the diary that Jack had picked up earlier saved his life. Henry seized the opportunity to quickly draw his sword, and with a single stroke, he chopped down the Trident, shattering it into many pieces. Immediately, all the curses on the sea were destroyed. Salazar also gradually returned to human form. His body no longer retained its snake-like, half-human, half-monster form. Not long after, they discovered that when the Trident was destroyed, the sea, which had been divided in two, also merged into a unified body, but at the same time created a great danger. If they did not quickly return to the ship, they would all be submerged by the sea. Just at this moment, Barbossa stepped on the giant anchor to rescue his teammates. In addition to Jack's group, Salazar also clung to the anchor. But due to its excessive weight, plus being entangled in obstacles, each plank of wood on the ship broke. The anchor shook violently. Karina slipped and fell, but fortunately, Barbossa reached out and caught her. In that moment of life and death, Karina saw a map tattoo on Barbossa's hand, which no one could read, so she asked him who she was to him. Karina was shocked to realize that Barbossa was her biological father. But at this moment, Salazar crawled up. Barbossa, to protect his daughter, grabbed Jack's sword, bravely jumped down and stabbed it straight into Salazar's chest, pulling him down to the bottom of the deep sea. Not long after, the sea merged into one, and Jack, Henry, and Karina were successfully rescued onto the ship. After the battle, everyone was extremely saddened by Barbossa's death. All the crew members on the ship took off their hats to express their respect for him. Jack quietly returned Karina's diary to Henry and told him to give it back to her, and at the same time comforted her. Sometime later, Karina and Henry welcomed Will back from the sea. Henry stepped forward and returned the precious necklace from his chest to his father. The two father and son hugged each other tightly as a testament to their love and bond. Then Will returned to reunite with Elizabeth Swann. They hugged each other tightly and exchanged a sweet kiss. All that happened was observed by Jack with a telescope from afar, making him think that those sweet scenes were nauseating. With the encouragement of the crew members on the ship, he walked to the bow of the ship and received the compass from the little monkey. He felt happy again to be able to continue his adventure. And so Jack Sparrow's fleet once again rushed towards the endless ocean. The film closes with a post-credit scene of Will and Elizabeth Swann sleeping soundly in their room. A mysterious shadow opened the door and walked in, step by step on the floor. When Will turned around, he suddenly saw a giant crab claw, and he woke up with a start. It turned out to be just a dream. But that dream was enough to prove that Davy Jones still existed somewhere deep under the sea. So that's the end of today's episode. If you liked it, please give me a like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to look forward to upcoming videos. See you in the next movies. Film review. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.